Hello everyone, I hope you're having a lovely day with lots of hugs and happiness. I want to talk to you about how I've been feeling with commentary. So I know it's everyone, it's not just me, but when I listen to my own recordings, I do not like the sound of my own voice. Sometimes I just feel really monotone, almost like I'm not interested in what I'm talking about, which is far from the truth because I'm always really passionate about what I want to talk about. Sometimes I also feel very softly spoken, and I don't mean I guess sometimes it can be nice, it makes you feel friendly, but sometimes it can make my voice feel less clear, it could make me feel too quiet sometimes. And when I do try to speak louder or lower, I just come across as, abrasive or angry, guys, stop drawing stick figures and champed up. You know what I mean? Yeah. Another thing I find myself doing a lot is using filler words. For example, I guess, essentially, those kinds of words. I really think it would be a good idea if I learned some synonyms. So instead of I'll say for example, or that is. Instead of I guess, I could say I suppose, I believe, it's possible that. And essentially, I feel like essentially is a word that I've picked up very recently, but now I just use it for everything. It's insane. But I could use words like virtually or basically. So synonym substitution is definitely something on the table. And I guess the term X or Y, it doesn't really mean anything. It's more of a particle than anything to indicate informality. For example, you wouldn't say, in a presentation or in a job interview. I guess maybe you could. I don't know. But I want to be informal on this channel. I want to be chill. So I might just keep saying it, because why not? Why not? It ain't hurting anyone. Another thing I like to do is called priming. And I do this not just for YouTube interviews. I don't do this just for YouTube videos, but maybe for online meetings or interviews. Actually, this has really helped me in job interviews, where I'll find some neutral text, so maybe like a dictionary definition or just some random text really, and I'll just read it loudly and clearly and not really care about whether I come across as cringe or anything like that. And what it really does is it makes it a lot easier for you to speak clearly. And another thing that it's really good for is building that confidence, just shutting down those inhibitions. Because I guess inhibitions, they are useful. You don't want to say silly stuff, you don't want to say stupid stuff, right? But it can also really work against you. It can make you feel less confident. I know what I'm saying, I know what I'm thinking, I know the stuff, but I want to be able to communicate it well, I want to spread that confidence, I want to instill confidence into people. Because if I'm not very confident, then other people will not be confident in what I'm trying to say. And that's something which I find very important.
Yeah, so I guess another thing I'll do is, instead of looking directly at the screen, I would look at something else instead of the notes that I'm supposed to be reading from. And I don't know how effective it is, but it does kind of help, I suppose. I also asked another YouTuber for some advice, and she's a really big YouTuber. She has really nice commentary. It's fun to listen to. She's really bubbly, and her advice really boiled down to treat the way you'd talk on video like how you would talk to a friend. And it really reminds me of these podcasts where they have naturally flowing conversations. It's not like they scripted it out, but they can talk for 5 hours on end, and every second of it's entertaining. And even then, the awkwardness can actually be really fun to listen to, which is kind of a counterintuitive, but I guess that's how it works. Another thing which is important actually is water, drinking water in particular. If you're ever in a situation where you need to do a lot of talking, so maybe you're doing a lecture or you have a job interview or you're just hanging out with a friend, you should definitely drink a lot of water because your throat is gonna get dry, especially in this weather, especially during the summer. Like, I saw a video on how to get clear skin, how to clear up your skin, and the guy recommended 3 liters of water a day. And I agree it is important, but I feel like drinking 3 liters, it's such a challenge because you just have to like push yourself to drink all of that water. It's really an uphill battle. But it is also very important, especially in this summer, because this year the temperatures in London have reached like mid 30s, like mid 30 degrees. And if you're watching this from the USA or somewhere else, like you might be like, bro, put in the AC, or 30 degrees is nothing. But you got to realize that the houses that were made in Britain, they were built specifically to trap it in and keep in warmth. That's why it's made of things like bricks. And the UK, we don't really have ACs. Air conditioning is pretty rare in residential households. So your only options are really to A, stand next to a fan for the next 6 hours, or B, just take the heat. And to be fair, neither of those options seem very nice to do. Another thing which is pretty important as well is sleep, and I'm talking to myself in particular. Because I guess if I don't sleep very much, then people will notice the tiredness in my voice, You'll also look visibly tired. And most importantly of all, it really affects your energy. And energy is something that I've recently learnt about as an abstract concept. Because I guess when I used to think of energy, I used to think of it in terms of physics, like, joules and kinetic energy and that kind of stuff. But then there's that second meaning, the meaning that people think of when they think of energy, like being excited about waking up and wanting to go out and do stuff, and that kind of stuff is really important. Like, I really want to speak energetically, enthusiastically. Like, I want to be that guy where before you start playing on your forever world in Minecraft, you tune into whatever I gotta say and listen to me ramble for the next hour or so. Like, that's the dream. I want to be charismatic. But to achieve all of that, it all starts with energy and having all of that energy. And in order to have that energy, I need to get enough sleep. So with that being said, thank you for listening to me ramble for however many minutes I've been rambling for. Take care, guys.